Hey Katie's, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we're going to look at some Richard Roundtree cameos.
Right on.
That's right, as the music just informed you, Richard Roundtree is most famous for playing Shaft, the seminal blaxploitation badass detective from, the 70s, back when blaxploitation was a thing. Now we get like little, fond remembrances and homages, like with Black Dynamite or Pootie Tang or I'm Gonna Get You Sucka, but it's just not as much of a thing anymore. Shaft is arguably the most famous one, and in no small part due to Richard Roundtree's great performance. Richard Roundtree he would do other movies and stuff, but nothing would really connect as much as Shaft. But he does a lot of theater, and it shows because he's a very theatrical actor and just very, very good. And I noticed that I have 3 movies where he kind of pops in for under 5 minutes each time, but he's always interesting and important to the plot. So our menu is going to include Seven, Brick, and Speed Racer. I'm not gonna lie, half of the reason that we're doing this is because Richard Roundtree is awesome, and half is because just imagine actually making people sit through those 3 movies in rapid succession. How much fun would it be? Seven is, of course, David Fincher's landmark serial killer movie starring Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman as beleaguered homicide detectives of Undisclosed, tracking down a serial killer that is obsessed with killing people using the 7 deadly sins. Now, at the you see Richard Roundtree sort of by the end of the first act, but doesn't really come back until the end. He is District Attorney Talbot. And each time he pops up, just dignity and just matter of fact, this guy is in charge. I love the press conference scene. You hear him answer a couple questions, but really the whole thing is him just laying down the law of how we're going to do this, and he is not going to put up with any reported BS. I'm going to give you some information, I will answer questions when they come nicely, and that is going to be it. And then he sort of pops in, not necessarily as a Basil Exposition-y type character, but he's a district attorney, and so he's in talks with John, the killer's attorney, played by Richard Schiff, which is sort of fun because it's just like imagine that courtroom scene with evil scumbag Toby Ziegler and complete Law and Order Shaft arguing a at that point was 5-person homicide, yeah. Or 5. No, 4. Because they didn't know about 5 yet. Ugh. 7. Again, just a great actor because you believe he is a district attorney. And again, this guy was Shaft way back in the day. I mean, he did other things in between. He was on Roots and, of course, played David Carradine's partner in the wonderful Larry Cohen film, Q the Winged Serpent. But it was just one of those... on my radar, at least, he hadn't been there for years, and then all of a sudden, and then there's Shaft. And in our first complete tonal shift, but not necessarily subject matter shift, we have Rian Johnson's first film, Brick, starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt as high school's answer to Philip Marlowe. Brick is a fascinating film on so many different levels because it is a straight-up film noir, Dashiell Hammett, Raymond Chandler type of story, but set in a modern high school. But it completely works. That's what's shocking. Like, this should have just fallen flat and been hokey or silly or like a Bugsy Malone type of thing. But it works perfectly, in no small part to the cast, which, they play it straight. They don't wink at the camera. They don't do anything silly. They play it the way it's supposed to, and as a result, the script is strong enough in combination with these performances that Brick is just a fascinating, wonderful movie. And once again, we have Shaft as an authority figure. He either plays Principal or Vice Principal Truman. Basically, the film noir high school's answer to the chief of police, who drags in Joseph Gordon-Levitt's Brendan character and tries to get him to help out on this murder case that he knows Brendan is working on his own, and then just kind of lets him go off and do his own thing as a PI. Like, there's a part where he almost says you have 24 hours to solve this case, and that's all I can give you. But there's the rapport between Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Richard Roundtree is there, and like they obviously have a history of having interacted in this high school, and just it's Richard Roundtree. This is going to be not a very in-depth one, more of a just gushing because I want to talk about Richard Roundtree because he's fun, and I love these movies so much. I could watch Brick every day. I could watch all of these movies every day, but nobody should watch Seven every day, because God, why? But again, we go from really one of the grimmiest, grittiest police detective, borderline horror movie, suspense movies, to not necessarily a light-toned, but it's a very serious, albeit bizarre premised movie with Brick. And then we're going to throw everything out the window and watch Speed Racer. I love Speed Racer. I've gone on record as saying this several times, and I will keep saying it to anybody that brings it up. Speed Racer is an incredible movie by the Wachowskis that uses car racing as a giant metaphor for art and trying to make art in a corporate system and beating cars up with other cars. There's car foo and everything. And in the midst of all of this is the winner of like either the first or the most important Grand Prix race, Ben Burns, played by Richard Roundtree. And it's not a big part at all, but it's an important part, because at the point in the movie where he pops up, Speed has been given the very hard pitch by E.P. Royalton, the evil corporation holder, who explains that like they have been rigging this race forever, and Speed, of course, refuses to believe that. It can't be. It's full shit. But then he meets up with Ben Burns in the locker room, and Richard Roundtree does not. It's such a subtle line delivery that he doesn't come out and say that the whole thing is rigged, but it could be. The question you need to ask is, are you willing to risk it being? And so it kind of it lends credence to Royalton's claims, and it creates a sense of tension for Speed, and lights a bit of a fire under him, because if it is confirmation that everything Royalton said is true, he's got to take it more seriously. And because why would we waste an opportunity to have more Richard Roundtree? We have him come back at the end as the color man for the Grand Prix race commentary. There's the play-by-play guy, and then Richard Roundtree is the color man, as the former champion and expert, and he's just fun. I mean, it's a testament to him as an actor that he plays as vapid commentator as I've ever heard on a sports thing, but he's just charming, and whenever they cut back to him, it's just always a delight, because Richard Roundtree is a delight, and he should be popping up in more movies. I'm not certain I need him in a starring role, but I really hope I keep finding him in movies that I've come for other reasons. It's like a nice little bonus. So either try to get people to sit through all these movies in a row, or imagine the fun of having a movie marathon that goes from Seven to Brick to Speed Racer all in one night. God, everybody would murder me. It would be so much fun. Alright, I'll see you guys next week.